I don't consider myself to be a very big fan of My Hero Academia, in that my interest in the series dropped significantly after the Overhaul arc, but that's a potential topic for a different video. My ever-dwindling interest in the MHA universe is why I was pleasantly surprised to see a prequel series approaching it from a different angle. MHA Vigilantes takes place in the same world of shonen superheroes, but without as many hard-cut lines between good and evil. Instead of watching a handful of high schoolers become gods among men under the guidance of top-ranking heroes, Vigilantes takes us back down to Earth in order to better examine those toiling away among the trash and grime, the more ordinary citizens who are willing to take on cases outside the jurisdiction of local law enforcement. As of this recording, only the first 10 episodes of the anime have aired, and I'm not much of a manga reader, meaning I can't really comment on the story thus far. What I can comment on, however, are the 3 main character designs. We're off to a promising start with Koichi, a run-of-the-mill college student and part-time convenience store clerk. But what's even more notable about Koichi is that he's a shonen protagonist who's older than 17.
It's a Christmas miracle.
Koichi is shown to be overly good-natured, often to the point of being a pushover, which is meant to contrast the abrasive personality of Knuckleduster. More on him later. What immediately stuck out to me about Vigilantes is that it gives us some time with characters whose powers aren't all that great, at least compared to most of Class 1A, which is appropriate because statistically, in a world in which the majority of the population possesses some kind of quirk, a lot of them are going to be garbage. Koichi's quirk, for instance, is Slide and Glide, which allows him to slide around on any surface, even if it defies gravity. The catch, however, is that it requires at least 3 points of contact with a surface in order to remain active. Because of this, Koichi often resorts to scurrying around on all fours, similar to an insect. Having spent most of his life being literally looked down upon by society, Koichi has a bit of an inferiority complex, but it's his lack of self-esteem that makes Koichi eager to prove himself in the eyes of his fellow citizens and become a hero, like his idol All Might. Sounds a lot like another protagonist we've come to know. Tangent time. I get that All Might is a really prominent figure in the MHA verse, but it would be nice to have a character bring attention to literally any other hero. Surely there's people out there whose favorite heroes are a little more obscure. Like, there has to be a handful of people who really like Best Jeanist, right? Anyone collect Best Jeanist merch? Anyone? No? What about that fucking mouse principal? Anyone dress up as him? Does anyone give a shit about the guy who's literally made of cement, or is everyone in this world just a basic bitch? Getting back to the topic of All Might, Koichi is a big fan. So much so that he collects official All Might themed hoodies. I do like that the hoodie he wears appears to be slightly too large, as if to symbolize that Koichi is trying to fill the shoes of a real hero, but the shoes quite literally don't fit. At least for the time being. Obviously the strands coming out from the top of his hood are meant to simulate All Might's hair, but they also look similar to cockroach antennae, which is fitting given how everyone refers to Koichi as being creepy and the fact that he lives in an old derelict apartment building. Seeing as All Might's design would have been conceived long before Koichi's, I don't think it's possible for this design to be fully intentional and was most likely a happy accident. But keeping the insect theme in mind, the parallels between Koichi and Kamen Rider are also pretty undeniable. I'm trying to let it go, but logistically, I still find the All Might merch very funny. Imagine stopping crime in a Spider-Man hoodie and trying to convince people you're not actually associated with Spider-Man. What are you, All Might Jr.? No, I'm the Crawler. I crawl around on the ground? Okay, but are you like a friend of his, or... No, I have my own hero identity that is completely separate from All Might's. Then why are you wearing his colors in a pattern that's almost identical to his hero outfit? Because shut up. Because your dad left to buy cigarettes and never came home. How about that? How do you know about that? How do you know about my dad? Don't bring him into this. Koichi does look more unique wearing the protective bike gear, and his colorful shades add another touch of saturation to his palette, though I think they could have gone a step further by giving him goggles with more bulbous lens, which would look more like insect eyes. His current eye protection is still too generic for my taste. While a lot of anime designs will leave most of a character's palette desaturated while making the hair color bright and or saturated, Koichi's design actually does the opposite. Both his pants and hair are desaturated in order to make the bright colors of his hoodie stand out. Bakugo would be an example of the inverse of this. His hair color is very light, which is in contrast to the dark colors of his hero outfit, especially in the movie variant. This is embarrassing to admit as a fully grown adult, but PopStep is easily my favorite of the three. I like her design a lot. Yes, she looks a bit slutty, but the same could be said about most cosplayers, let's be honest. PopStep's quirk allows her to jump really high, and evidently avoid taking any fall damage so long as she lands on her feet. It's fairly mundane as far as quirks go, even more so than Koichi's, but it does come in handy when putting on a show. And it is nice to see quirks being used for more civilian purposes outside of strictly combat and rescue. As much as I'd like to see her be a little more involved in confrontations, PopStep's quirk is a lot more suited for recon than fistfights. And Knuckleduster proves to be a one-man army all on his own. Her confident idol persona is in stark contrast to how she tends to act in her day-to-day life. Behind her outgoing veneer, Kazuo shows anxiety when placed in certain social situations, and at the thought of doing performances outside her comfort zone. It's also clear that she prefers to keep her personal life and identity as a street performer separate in order to avoid any awkward interactions. As for her outfit, I can appreciate the decision to take the pop idol look and put it through a goth filter. She looks like if Ami and Yumi tried to fit through a doorway at the same time and fused into a single character. This is the part where I find out the average age of my audience based on how many viewers got that reference. I also learned during my random googling that they actually censored her design slightly when transitioning from the manga to the anime. And by censored, I mean they just gave her tights instead of leaving her thighs completely bare. The woke radical feminists have struck again! What more will they take from us?
Oh my god!
In all seriousness, the anime version does look a lot better, partly because I just like the aesthetic of transparent clothing, but also because this is pretty excessive. On that note, why does Kazuo have to be a high schooler when the main protag is a college student? Just make them the same age so I don't have to feel like a creep. We finally have an MC who's old enough to drink, but the girl of the group just has to be a minor. Those figurines ain't gonna sell if she's past the expiration date, am I right? I take back what I said earlier, they ruined it. Her extremely small miniskirt would also be excessive if not for the fact that what she's wearing is basically a swimsuit, which makes the skirt more of an accessory than anything. I like that the material at the tops of her arm sleeves is the same as the frills of her skirt. And my favorite part of her design are, of course, the little bat wings, because they look as though they'd help her get more airtime despite being purely decorative. One's first instinct might be to place the wings on her upper back rather than the middle, but I think they would clash too much with her hairstyle if the two were any closer together. Both her hair and wings stick out at the sides, so keeping some distance between the two helps balance the design overall. If I were to change a few things, I'd probably get rid of the bow around her neck for one. I think it stands out too much as there's no real reason for it to be there. These things are more nitpicky, but I'd also remove the extra pattern on her boots as it seems superfluous, and just change the hearts on her belt to be the same shade of pink that accentuates the rest of her design. Maybe make her gloves a little longer while I'm at it. The real question we should be asking is why PopStep doesn't wear her cool-ass jacket all the time. Whenever she jumps, it could flow behind her like a cape. Give her a cape, you cowards! Who cares if it gets in the way and creates a tripping hazard? It looks rad as hell. Same goes for her shades. Very sleek. They don't really hide her identity as well as the mask does, but I'm all for style over practicality. Last, but certainly not least, we've got Knuckleduster. While watching him deck people squarely in the face during the first episode, honest to God, one of my first thoughts was, how funny would it be if this guy was just a really buff dude with no quirk? And then it's revealed in the next episode that he's just a really buff dude with no quirk. Who needs superpowers when you have non-regulation brass knuckles, and alcohol dependency, and zero concern for your own well-being? A dangerous combo if there ever was one.
I am the danger.
Knuckleduster, named after his weapon of choice, is on a mission to track down the origin of Trigger, a mysterious drug that amplifies the user's quirk to dangerous levels. The drug's been plaguing the alleys of Heroville as of late, and Knuckle isn't having it. Armed with a no-nonsense approach to justice, as well as his own personal motives, he prowls the streets, harassing any poor soul in his line of sight who looks the slightest bit suspicious. Guilty or innocent, Knuckle will punch you in the head if it means gaining any amount of intel. If the lack of actual superpowers, black mask, and solid white eyes haven't tipped you off yet, I should inform you that Knuckleduster is a clear homage to the Batman. Just like the iconic Bat-themed Vigilante, Knuckle uses brute strength and intellect to either overpower or outsmart his opponents, rather than relying on special powers. Although relying on physical fitness while both drinking and smoking seems pretty counterintuitive. This superhero show is just so unrealistic. It may be a bit of a stretch, but the collar of his trench coat looks kinda similar to bat ears, and Knuckle even has a utility belt of his own. I like how his hair still pokes out from under his headscarf, even though it doesn't make much sense. The design reminds me of Jotaro's cap, which is funny considering the artists already referenced Jotaro in the form of a side character. Knuckle has a nice color scheme going for him as well, made up of desaturated green and grays, similar to a military outfit. The baggy pants and combat boots also drive home the soldier look. The darkness of Knuckles' color palette also brings out the saturation of Koichi's palette that much more, as they're often seen together. Nothing like an experienced yet jaded master and his colorful young ward. PopStep is also there, in the background, away from the chaos. What we essentially have are an unhinged lunatic and Misfits 1 and 2. I'm seeing some concerning parallels here. And so, the streets of Musu Tafu, Japan, are kept clean of crime thanks to the selfless efforts of Batman going through a divorce, a bug, and goth Hatsune Miku. What a good team they are. Feel free to subscribe for more art and/or analysis vids. Or don't. It's not like I care or anything.